In the quiet hush of a forgotten town, where the only sounds that echoed were the distant howls of coyotes and the rhythmic tick-tock of my trusty Timex, I found myself on an unremarkable summer's eve. The sun was setting, painting the sky with hues of orange and pink, as if nature herself was trying to put on a show for the dwindling number of residents who still clung to their roots. I was patrolling the main street, a desolate stretch of asphalt marred by the tire tracks of long-gone vehicles, when a commotion caught my ear. A shrill scream, a cacophony of panicked voices, and the unmistakable crackle of gunfire pierced the tranquility of the evening. My heart skipped a beat, but my training took over. I holstered my nightstick, drew my service revolver, and set off towards the source of the disturbance. My boots hit the ground with a solid thud, their rhythm matching the accelerating pounding of my heart. As I rounded the corner, my eyes widened at the sight before me. A group of men, their faces obscured by bandanas, were engaged in a heated standoff with a family of 4, their hands raised in surrender. In the center, a man, older, with a bushy mustache and wild eyes, was brandishing a shotgun, his finger poised precariously on the trigger. My mind raced, calculating the potential outcomes. I knew I had to act swiftly, yet cautiously. I drew a deep breath, steadied my aim, and called out, "Sheriff's Department, drop your weapons." The man with the shotgun looked around, his eyes wild and confused. For a moment, it seemed as if he was considering my command. But then, with a twisted sneer, he turned his gaze back to the family and pulled the trigger. Time seemed to slow as the shot rang out, echoing through the empty streets. I saw the fear in the family's eyes, the terror etched on their faces. Then, I saw the impact. The father crumpled to the ground, a pool of blood spreading around him. I acted on instinct. I fired, hitting the gunman in the shoulder, sending him sprawling to the ground. The remaining men took off, disappearing into the night. I rushed to the family, calling for an ambulance, cradling the dying man in my arms, his life ebbing away with each shallow breath. That night, I witnessed the worst and the best of humanity. The worst in the cold-blooded act of violence. The best in the instinctive response to protect and serve. It was a stark reminder of the job I had sworn to do, a promise I would continue to keep, day after day, night after night, in the quiet, forgotten towns of this vast, unforgiving land. In the stillness of that November morning, I found myself standing amidst the remnants of a life shattered into pieces. A house, once a haven, now a crime scene. The sun's feeble rays struggled to penetrate the darkness that enveloped the property, casting long, ominous shadows that seemed to dance with the ghosts of the past. Detectives had arrived, their uniforms sharp against the somber backdrop. I could see their eyes, heavy with the weight of the unknown, scanning the scene with an intensity that was almost palpable. They moved with a purpose, their steps echoing through the cold silence, leaving behind a trail of disturbed dust. The air was thick with the stench of death, a putrid reminder of the tragedy that had unfolded here. The detectives, however, seemed unfazed, their faces stoic as they documented evidence, their gloved hands meticulously handling objects that had once belonged to the victims. Each item they touched, each photograph they took, was another piece of the puzzle they were determined to solve. I watched as they carefully sifted through the debris, their eyes often meeting mine, a silent acknowledgement of the grim reality we were all facing. In their eyes, I saw the determination to bring justice, the resolve to uncover the truth, and the empathy for the victims and their families. As I stood there, watching the detectives work, I couldn't help but feel a sense of awe. Awe for their dedication, their unwavering commitment, and their relentless pursuit of truth. It was a reminder of why I had chosen this path, why I had dedicated my life to serving and protecting. Yet, beneath the awe, there was a lingering unease. An unease born of the knowledge that the truth we were seeking was hidden deep within the layers of a mystery that had yet to reveal itself. But I knew that we would unravel it, piece by piece, until the darkness was lifted and justice was served. As the sun began to rise, casting its light over the scene, I could see the detectives' resolve harden. They were ready to delve into the heart of the mystery, to face the darkness head-on. I knew that I would be there with them, every step of the way, for justice, for the victims, and for the sake of the community we had sworn to protect. The investigation had begun, and we would not rest until we found the truth. In the hallowed halls of justice, where the weight of a community's trust rests heavy upon the shoulders of those sworn to uphold it, I found myself embroiled in a case that would test the very essence of that trust. The case of the missing heiress, Amelia Hartley, had been a thorn in my side for months, a mystery that refused to unravel despite our best efforts. But then, as if fate had decided to intervene, new evidence surfaced, an elusive phantom that had been lurking in the shadows all along. The day began like any other, a relentless barrage of paperwork and phone calls, the mundane duties that make up the fabric of a law enforcement officer's life. But as I sifted through the mountain of case files on my desk, my eyes landed on a familiar name, a name that had been etched into the annals of our county's history, Hartley. I felt a cold shiver run down my spine, a premonition that told me this was no ordinary piece of paper. I picked up the file, my fingers tracing the worn edges as I flipped through the pages, each one a testament to the tireless efforts of my team. And there it was, a single photograph, tucked away in the back of the file, a photograph that would change everything. It was a grainy, black and white image, a man and a woman, their faces obscured by shadows. But there was something about it, a haunting quality that resonated deep within me. I felt a surge of adrenaline as I made the call to my team, my voice steady and measured as I relayed the details of the new evidence. The reaction was immediate, a flurry of activity as they gathered around my desk, their eyes wide with a mixture of shock and anticipation. We spent the rest of the day poring over the photograph, searching for any clue that would lead us to Amelia Hartley, a beacon of hope in the darkness of the unknown. As the sun set and the shadows lengthened, we were no closer to finding Amelia, but the new evidence had given us a glimmer of hope, a spark of light in the darkness that fueled our determination. And so, we pressed on, each step carrying us deeper into the heart of the mystery, a dance with danger that would ultimately lead us to the truth. In the days that followed, we followed the trail left by the photograph, a twisted path that led us through the underbelly of our community, a world hidden from the prying eyes of the innocent. We made arrests, we interrogated suspects, and we searched for any shred of evidence that would lead us to Amelia Hartley. It was during one of these searches, a dilapidated warehouse on the outskirts of town, that we found her. Her eyes, wide and fearful, locked onto mine as I approached, a testament to the ordeal she had endured. But there was also a spark of defiance in her gaze, a resilience that spoke volumes about her spirit. In that moment, as I helped her to her feet and led her out of the darkness, I felt a sense of pride swell within me. Not just for the fact that we had found her, but for the knowledge that we had never given up, that we had pressed on in the face of adversity and brought justice to a young woman who desperately needed it. As I drove her home, the setting sun casting a warm glow over the landscape, I couldn't help but reflect on the path that had led us to this moment. The journey had been long and arduous, but the new evidence had been the key that unlocked the door to Amelia's freedom. And as I looked at her, her face bathed in the golden light of the setting sun, I knew that our efforts had been worth it, that we had made a difference in the lives of those we swore to protect. In the years that have passed since that fateful day, I have seen and experienced many things in my career as a deputy. I have faced down danger, I have witnessed tragedy, and I have brought justice to those who sought it. But none of those experiences have ever compared to the relief I felt as I watched Amelia Hartley walk out of that warehouse, a free woman once more. It is a moment that I will carry with me for the rest of my days, a testament to the power of perseverance, the indomitable spirit of the human will, and the unwavering commitment of those who serve and protect. For in the end, it is not just about the badge we wear or the gun we carry, but about the difference we make in the lives of those we serve, one case at a time. In the quietude of a moonlit night, the stillness of the air seemed almost palpable, a hushed testament to the tranquility that cloaked the town. Yet, beneath this veneer of peace, a storm was brewing, a tempest of uncertainty and anticipation. The radio crackled to life, piercing the silence, and the calm was shattered. The dispatcher's voice was terse, urgent. 10 to 75 possible suspects in the bank robbery spotted at the north end of town. As I keyed my cruiser to life, I could feel a familiar knot tightening in my stomach, a familiar mix of adrenaline and trepidation. I've seen this dance before, this cat-and-mouse game between the law and the lawless. I've chased shadows in the dead of night, apprehended the guilty, and comforted the frightened. But this night felt different. The air seemed heavier, the shadows darker, the silence louder. I navigated the winding streets, the headlights of my cruiser cutting through the inky blackness, illuminating the world in a stark, cold light. The town was eerily deserted, the usual hum of activity replaced by an oppressive silence. The wind howled, carrying with it the promise of a storm, mirroring the storm brewing within me. The dispatcher's voice came again, clearer now. 10 to 4, possible suspects spotted near the old mill. Proceed with caution. I gripped the steering wheel tighter, my knuckles white. The old mill was a relic, abandoned for years, a perfect hiding place for the guilty. As I approached, the wind picked up, whipping around me, trying to steal my courage. I parked my cruiser a safe distance away, taking a deep breath to steady myself. The wind howled again, and I could hear the distant sound of footsteps, the sound of the hunted. My heart pounded in my chest, but I took a step forward, my hand resting on the grip of my service weapon. The old mill loomed in the darkness, a haunting silhouette against the moonlit sky. I could hear the sound of voices, muffled and distant, echoing through the empty halls. I took a deep breath, stepped into the darkness, and followed the sound. The manhunt had begun. In the stillness of that haunting evening, the stifling weight of the summer haze clung to the air like a shroud. The sun had long since dipped below the horizon, and the first stars began to twinkle in the deepening twilight. It was the kind of night that seemed to hold its breath, waiting for something momentous to unfold. I'd been at this job long enough to know that the quiet moments were often the calm before the storm. And, on this particular night, my instincts were not wrong. The call came in with the monotone efficiency of a robot. A missing person report, a woman named Sarah, last seen leaving a local bar some hours ago. Her car was found abandoned by the river, and her phone had gone dead. It was the kind of case that had been played out countless times before, but there was something about Sarah's case that felt different. It was as if the very air around us was heavy with foreboding. We arrived at the river's edge, the water a dark, menacing mirror reflecting the moon's weak glow. The scent of damp earth and decay hung thick in the air, a reminder of the life that lay just beneath the surface. The search party was already assembling, a motley crew of officers, volunteers, and concerned citizens. In the distance, a soft whimper pierced the silence. It was a sound that would forever be seared into my memory, the sound of a life lost, a soul crying out from the depths. We followed the sound, our hearts heavy with dread, until we found her, Sarah's lifeless body, half submerged in the dark water, her eyes frozen wide in terror. The arrests that followed were swift and brutal. The suspect, a man named John, was found hiding in the shadows of his dilapidated home, a gun clutched tightly in his trembling hand. The evidence was irrefutable, and he was taken into custody without incident. As we drove him away, I couldn't help but feel a sense of numbness, a cold emptiness that seemed to permeate my very being. I had seen death before, but there was something about this case, the senselessness of it all, the innocence stolen from a young woman, that left a mark on my soul. It was a dark night, indeed, but it was also a night that reminded me of the importance of our work. In the face of such evil, we must fight to bring justice, to give a voice to the voiceless, and to protect the innocent. It was a solemn vow I would carry with me for the rest of my days. I stood at the edge of a dilapidated barn, my heart pounding like a drum in my chest. A tense silence hung in the air, broken only by the occasional rustle of the wind through the dry, withered grass. The barn, a relic of a bygone era, seemed to be the last refuge for the man I'd been chasing for weeks. A man wanted for a string of heinous crimes that had left the entire county in a state of fear. With a deep breath, I stepped into the barn, my gun at the ready. The darkness enveloped me, the only light a feeble beam from my flashlight. The air inside was thick and stale, the stench of decay clinging to my nostrils. I could hear the sound of my footsteps echoing off the walls, each step bringing me closer to the unknown. Suddenly, a voice, cold and taunting, echoed through the darkness. "Deputy," it hissed, "we meet at last." I froze, my heart skipping a beat as I recognized the voice of the man I'd been hunting. I could feel the adrenaline surging through my veins as I moved forward, my gun raised, my eyes adjusting to the darkness. There, in the corner, huddled against the wall, was the man I'd been seeking. His eyes, cold and calculating, met mine, a smirk playing at the corners of his lips. "You've got me, Deputy," he said, his voice dripping with mockery. "What now?" I couldn't help but feel a sense of satisfaction, a sense of justice about to be served. But I knew better than to let my guard down. "Now," I said, my voice steady, "you're coming with me." The man laughed, a chilling sound that echoed through the barn. "We'll see about that, Deputy." With a